Welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend just a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings, the card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And I'm Ted Vanek, and I love you guys. Just gonna say it. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, it's just very glorious that you love us, right, Ted?
Yes, it's going to be a very glorious episode and not boring at all.
Not boring. And it's great. The three of us are here to do this episode, and Grant's on video. Like, it's rare anymore that the three of us get together to do an episode, and it's even more rare that Grant's on video. So, like, it's going to be good. It's almost as rare as this card is used in a game, right? Like.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be a great episode. I'm excited.
Yeah. But before we get into the card, let's talk a little bit about how you guys can stay connected with Card Talk. The backbone of what we do here is the podcast. We have an audio feed, which you may be listening to. We have the video feed, which you could be watching. But we also have a blog where Matt, Cat Attack 22, takes and reviews the cards one card at a time. And he is over at cardtalk2018.com.
No cats are harmed or attacked in the making of the blog.
No, not usually. Not usually. And then we have Micah, who does Second Breakfast, which is a playthrough series. He gives himself deck building restrictions, and he plays scenarios. He doesn't necessarily use cards specifically that we have reviewed or that we're about to review, but he does playthroughs. And he has fun doing that. Uploads every couple of weeks. And we also have a Patreon. This year we're going to get back on the Patreon swag wagon. More on that a little bit later in the recording of shows as we get the details hammered out. But it's been a long couple of years on the swag side of things, but we got stuff going on with that. Patreon.com/cardtalk2018. But Grant, we're here to talk about cards. So what card are we doing?
If you would grant us the pleasure.
How are we wrapping up our slog through the core set here? This has been a long time. We finally decided to finish the core set. We stuck to it. It took us like one whole season plus a little bit, but we're doing it. Grant, how are we finishing this up?
Well, we're doing the last hero from the core set, and probably arguably one of my favorite characters in Lord of the Rings, other than Grimbeorn, is Glorfindel. The 12-cost law hero with 3 willpower, 3 attack, 1 defense, and 5 hit points. He's a noble Noldor warrior. Try saying that 3 times fast. With an action, pay 1 resource from Glorfindel's pool to heal 1 damage on any character, limit once per round.
Ta-da!
Okay. Well, I made the maybe the tongue-in-cheek reference that people don't play this card very often, and I'll just start off by saying,
yeah, he's a bit of a snore. He's kind of Snorfindel.
Yeah. He may have been good, except when Spirit Glorfindel came out for 5 threat cost in the Light of Valinor. Like, that card doesn't. This card doesn't compete with that card, so it's always like, which Glorfindel am I going to use? Of course, Spirit Glorfindel. There's no reason to not usually. And the healing's limited, so that there's just a lot of, downsides to this card. But Ted, what's your take on Glorfindel?
On Snorfindel?
On Glorfindel, yes.
On Borfindel?
Yeah.
His stats are high. So that's good. And I think
That's good.
yeah. 3 attack and 3 willpower and 5 hit points. That's a lot. He's got good traits. He's one of the few. I think he's the only warrior traded lore character, if I'm not mistaken. So he's got that uniqueness about
You just gave
him.
Grant something to do. Grant can look up how many
Confirm.
lore warriors are there.
Yeah, I think he's the only one.
What do you think I'm already doing?
Yeah, I know. You just pulled up on your chair, so
yeah, unfortunately his I mean, it is good to have like you have automatic access to healing without having to draw any cards from your deck. That's probably his biggest benefit. It just comes at kind of a steep cost, right? Like
right.
to pay 1 resource to heal 1 off of a hero. It's kind of pricey in the days of the core set only where there were limited options.
Right.
It was pretty great.
Yeah.
Sometimes you needed him on the table. Certainly, if you want to get some more mileage out of him, it really, really helps if you or somebody else is playing Hero Elrond.
Yeah, I was going to say Elrond always makes healing better, but that's not
Yeah.
specific to Glorfindel.
Right. So it's a good combo card. And of course, it is nice that lore Glorfindel is in access or in the same sphere as his mount Ashfaloth, which is a very important attachment. 2 cost lore attachment goes on a Noldor or Sylvan, and you can exhaust it to put a progress on a location in play, or 2 progress if it's attached to Glorfindel. So you do have that kind of benefit where he's already in sphere to play his mount. So there's a couple of use cases for him, but his threat is very high, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if he's won much. I mean, he can do a lot in solo play, right? And if you could find a way to ready him, he's got great stats. It just comes at everything about him is a bit overcosted. His threat, his ability.
Yeah, I mean, would it matter if the limit for healing was modified? Like, if instead of having him limited once per round for healing 1 damage, maybe, if he could heal 3, limit 3 per round or something, like.
That's a good thought to help, but it's still kind of expensive. It's still like 1 for 1. For me to be able to play him, like I really gotta have Elrond paired with him or on the table, because then I'm at least healing for 2.
Right.
But I mean, it's an action speed heal, and like I said, it requires you can just do it. You just have to have the resource.
Right.
So it can mean the difference between a hero dying and living.
Right. Grant, what were you? How many lore warriors are there?
There are 4 results in Hall of Beyond for warriors from lore, and they all have the name Glorfindel. You have Glorfindel from the core set, the 2-player limited edition starter set. You have the revised core set, and you have the Wizard's Quest version of Glorfindel.
Yeah, he's got a lot of alt arts.
I was going to say a lot of official alt arts. I was actually going to say this. Like, did the designers feel like he was that good that he got released in the collector's edition, and then also had an alt art like from a Gen Con? Like, he's in everything. Like, is he that good, or is he just like that easy?
There's only 3 different arts, because the revised core set uses the exact same art as the core set.
Yep.
The 2-player limited edition starter set is slightly brighter than what the original is, and obviously the major difference is the Wizard's Quest one, which is a completely new artwork design where he's actually riding Aspharoth.
Yeah, if we wanted to depart and talk about art a little bit, I mean, if you are lucky enough to have one of those copies, it's awesome looking. it's
Well, it really is.
it's really cool. Like just that art alone makes me want to put it on the table because the card is so beautiful to play with.
The alt art of Glorfindel.
Of the lower Glorfindel.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that particular alt art. I'm just sad that it was lore Glorfindel that they use. You know, like it's just I don't know. Like I don't know how they decide which characters get the alt art treatment. But...
Yeah. I think it's just whatever they feel like.
Yeah.
Another, I guess I'm trying to think of other benefits too, or reasons you want to use him. If you having heroes with a high threat can be beneficial if you are using the Perilous Voyage contract.
Okay.
I find that starting heroes with a higher threat, that's the contract where once you get to 50, instead of being eliminated, you get to flip the contract and go back down to 40. So if you want a hero to start with that's higher threat, he qualifies for that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I never do this. Now, most people will say that Spirit Glorfindel is OP, is just overpowered, crazy 5 starting threat. But is there a reason to do like Thorngill and bring out lore Glorfindel onto Spirit Glorfindel? Like, is that a thing? I mean, I know that there's a lot of decks out there that are Spirit and Lore. Spirit and Lore seem to kind of naturally, kind of naturally pair. But as that you can always play Thorngill. But go ahead.
If you want to use gaining access to the lore resource to gain access to Asphaleth, then yeah, quite possibly. I mean, I used a lot of core Glorfindel in the early days of the card pool because he was one of my favorite characters. Is he good? He's acceptable. I mean, on par with things like cards like Aragorn and what have you. He's, in all honesty, I'd say he's better than Aragorn in terms of stat distribution. In terms of playability, Aragorn's got more potential because he's readies after you commit to the quest by spending that one resource. As Ted said, the cost is 1-for-1 on healing, which is similar to the cost for the Warden of Healing. You spend 2 to ready it, but you can heal 1 damage off 2 different characters. But if you've got Elrond not in play, obviously that dramatically increases the amount of healing getting done.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Is he overcosted for his healing? Potentially. But maybe altering it to, like David said, maybe 3 times per round would sort be more of a benefit than a hindrance. But there's not a lot of resource acceleration in lore, as me and David talked about in one of the earlier cards from the core set.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of tricks now to get resource acceleration into play, regardless of what type of deck you're running. If you're running a Doom deck, you've got the Keys of Orthanc. If you're running Steward of Gondor, or if you're able to reduce your threat below 20 while running core Glorfindel, you've got stuff like Resourceful. There's so many different ways to gain resources that maybe this may be the only need you have for direct healing.
Yeah, I mean, here's one of the things that's good, I think, about having a character that heals is that it's not an event. It sticks around like Warden of Healing, like Eorith, but the Warden of Healing and Eorith, who are kind of like the standard bearer of healing, they have like low hit points, so they evaporate real quickly when you're playing. This guy's a little more hardy, so not to say that he's going to be your only source of healing if you need healing, but the fact that he's got 5 hit points versus something else, and that 5 hit point is also something to keep in mind. Taking an undefended attack or having that larger pool of hit points is good just for having any, hero on the board. Sometimes that's what you need. And his ignoring the action.
Archery stroke.
Ignoring the action, to take something undefended and then to be able to attack for 3 is pretty good. I don't know. And thinking about the core set also, there's Glowin, who you want to have take damage. There's Gimli, who you want to have take damage. And I think that one of the things that I have learned by doing all of these cards in the core set is I think that core Gimli, when you're playing core set only, core Gimli goes much better with lore cards than with other cards. I just like tactics and lore. So, Gimli, Glorfindel, and then, third hero of choice in there is
Talk about starting with your threat high. That's a perilous voyage deck.
Well, that's what, and I mean, so I think that there's some upside to this guy, but I still don't play him over Spirit Glorfindel, right? Like, it's just not.
Yeah, Spirit Glorfindel is a bargain, and you also he's got that Spirit Ally version too. His Spirit Ally version also very good.
better than this.
It's a 5-cost ally that has the same stat line, and it can ready by discarding a card.
Right.
So it's
and
very
you can play from the discard.
Yeah. Very, very strong competition. Like I said, the nice thing about the lore version is if you want Ashfaloth and then you're playing Spirit Glorfindel, it kind of locks you into those 2 spheres, right?
Right. Yep.
You got to play. You're already at 2 spheres, maybe a third, or you're always playing those 2 together. You're always playing Spirit Lore, but with Lore Glorfindel, you can pair him with, you can still have Ashfaloth and play it mono lore, or play it with tactics, or and any distribution you want to of other heroes, which is kind of nice.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to talk about Glorfindel without discussing his other 2 very,
strong
competitors. But all the things you can do with Spirit Glorfindel. Spirit Glorfindel, Grant, was one of the first cards we did in the card pool. Like, we went back, go back to like episode 8, and we did Spirit Glorfindel. But all the targets that go on Spirit Glorfindel go onto Lord Glorfindel, so you can put it on a Light of Valinor on this guy, and you can do the Tale of Tenuvial stuff, or whatever, right? Tale of Tenuvial, is that, or am I thinking? Yeah. Like, there's things to do with this guy that are pretty, that are good, that you can do with it, but I don't know. I just don't pick this guy.
Yeah, just going back through our queue, and this was the first card that I rated a half rating.
I knew I had something in my craw about this guy from the beginning.
Episode 7, if you go back and watch it, it's the half rating show.
Boo. I don't know. What more is there to say about this guy? Does he go into other contracts other than Perilous Voyage? Does he go into the Grey Wanderer contract? Maybe not really. I don't know.
I mean, 3 hunters he would be quite good in, due to the fact that it's multiple ways to heal, and he can take a lot of undefended attacks. You get a reduced equipment, obviously, from the three hunters.
Yeah, and he has warrior traded too, like I mentioned. So that's a great suggestion, Grant. It does give you extra healing on top of the contract, which sometimes you need, and then you don't have to play like events to do it either. So
is he the only hero that heals? Because Elrond doesn't heal; he only makes healing better.
Right. I want to say yes, and I think what would make him better is like he should just like heal for free. It should just be once per round heal.
An option to heal.
Yeah, at no cost. Then he would be. I would put him on the table much more often.
Right.
It just the problem is that he's in lore, and then you have a card like Aorit that you mentioned, which is a 0-cost ally. You pay a resource to heal 3.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to spend, the card slot in your deck just and then draw it and play it for 0. That's the rough part, is that it's expensive. But you do have to, again, draw it, and here Glorfindel starts on the table, and his stats are high. And, it's like you mentioned, you put an unexpected courage on him or a light of Valinor, and he does a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. I've just had a look, and Glorfindel is the only hero that actually heals. You've got a lot of events, a lot of allies, and a lot of attachments that can do healing, but the only hero that can heal is Glorfindel. Obviously, Elrond supplements the healing, but he doesn't actually heal.
Right. I think it's obvious that they remonetized healing later on in the card pool, and I think Glorfindel suffers from that remonetization.
Yeah, that's a good way to put
it. That's just because they couldn't predict.
If you think about it, using Dunedain Remedy or using Glorfindel, it's the same price. Dunedain Remedy, you have to pay one to move it to a target to heal that hero.
But it's in a sphere that there's no healing. The Dunedain Remedy,
yes,
I agree with what you're saying, but the Dunedain Remedy, its power is that it's in leadership and not in lore with all the other with all the other healing cards.
But what I'm getting at is it's still 1 for 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are cards that are just as expensive to play, unfortunately.
He's not going to be an A-grade healer, but he is a decent hero, and the limited healing that he does provide can help. I'm not saying it's going to be the reason why you play him, but it could be the benefit to taking them over, say, something like Eorith or taking one of the healing events.
Mm-hmm.
You might just want to say, right, there's a little bit of direct damage in this quest. What can I get for a decent lore hero that gives us access to lore in the healing? Glorfindel might be an option, so that way you've got a little bit extra wiggle room for other cards you might want to put in your deck.
Yeah, and like we mentioned, his stats are high, and if you have a limited card pool, 3 willpower hero is very strong. He was in the core set, and that's still a high number. And if you really want strong willpower off the bat, you just pair him with a couple other hot. You can get. Let's see here. Are there any other? I'm trying to think in the core set. Eowyn's the most, of course, at 4.
Yep.
Is there anybody else in the core set who's 3? Or is everybody else 2?
I think everybody else is 2 and 1.
Yeah.
Berevor's 2, Denethor's 1, Gimli's 2, Thalin's 1, Theodred's 1.
Yeah, so in the core set, he's the second highest. So
yeah, I'll just search core set for 3 willpower, and Glorfindel's the only thing that comes up.
Yeah, so so you pair him with Eowyn. I mean, that's 7 willpower to start in the core set, and then you throw in another one of those twos, and you're at 9. So
Right.
if you're making a questing deck to pair with somebody, that's a lot on turn 1
It is.
for not playing any cards.
Right.
So he helps in that regard. So
Yep.
And
not to be ignored, not very exciting to play, but
Glorfindel.
yeah, he's a bit
Snorfindel.
boring. He puts me to sleep a little bit.
And unfortunately, that's exactly the way most of the community see Core Glorfindel. He's got a popularity rating of 2 with 7,361 decks.
That's pretty low on Rings DB. What about the artwork?
Yeah.
Grant, for being your favorite character in the lore, does this artwork match up with what you were thinking?
I like the artwork for this version of Glorfindel. It's not the best artwork I've seen. By far, I do like Spirit Glorfindel's artwork, but this kind of puts us in mind of when he's coming from the House of the Golden Flower, pre the fall of Gondolin.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the way the backdrop is highlighting, almost giving him a golden aura situated around him. So, yeah, I do like this artwork.
Ted?
I feel like it just doesn't quite do him justice. I feel like I wanted more, and then I immediately got it with Spirit Glorfindel.
And even like you said, even the altar, yeah.
And then this, like, literally, I think if you compare, it's not bad. It's okay. It's cool. It's him, in the sunlight. He's got a strong pose about him. So overall, it's good. But if you compare it to the other 3 art versions that exist, it's the worst one, which is sad.
Yeah. And if you compare that with what Elep's doing, it's still the worst one.
Yeah, there's been some fan alt arts too, and I think a lot of renditions of the character. I'd say just overall because of who he is.
Yeah. Well, should we ring this guy?
Yeah, let's ring him up. Let's take him to the cash register.
Okie doke. So for anybody who doesn't know, or maybe this is your first time, we have a highly scientific yet arbitrary system where we ring a card on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the one card in the game to rule them all, or a 10, which is the card that we throw back into the fiery chasm from whence it was made. And so, Ted,
I'm gonna give. Yeah, sure. I'm gonna give him a 6. Because I mean, high stats. He's got him where you want it. You give him a piece of action advantage, and he does that same kind of thing that Spirit Glorfindel's doing. He just sort of has that extra cost, and of course, he doesn't have that innate drawback, right? You can just sort of start questing with him immediately. So yeah, I'll give him a 6.
Grant?
I'm giving him a 4 because he is one of my favorite characters. I do want to play him in decks. Don't always go the route when I'm building the deck. I'll put him in as a placeholder, and then something might kick him out. But he is in there initially, and overall, he's got a good stat line, and he's a hit point soak if nothing else. And with that innate healing that he has, sometimes it's more beneficial to do it that way.
Well, what I know is that I don't ever play this copy of Glorfindel ever. This guy never makes it into a deck. I'm always using Spirit Glorfindel. Heck, I even have Ally Glorfindel in a couple of decks because he's just that good.
He's strong in the Noldor archetype deck. He's really strong. His ally version.
Yep. And, despite the positives, the high stats, the lore warrior trait, in Sphere for Asphalloth, I still have to give this guy an 8. I'm not inspired by this version of Glorfindel at all. So, everybody, there you have it. With Lord Glorfindel, we have done it. We have finished the core set. Woo! Yay!
Ta-da!
Okay, David, I've got a challenge for you. You've got to make yourself a Glorfindel deck and learn to love them.
Nope. Won't do it. Not a thing I'm going to do. So, okay, everybody, join us next week as we don't have any idea what we're going to review, but we'll figure it out and we'll record and come at you and see what's going on.
Well, there's still plenty of cards left in the card pool.
There's still plenty of cards left. Okay, everybody, have a great day.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube. And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.